Lately, I have been having a personal experience these past few days that made me think about my yoga practice, even off the mat, and one of the yamas specifically. It is the fifth yama, Aparigraha, which means non-possessiveness, non-greed, non-hoarding. So thank you for tuning in to this video on Yoga with Paige, where we are going to explore the yama Aparigraha, what it means. We're going to break it down. We're going to kind of talk about Patanjali's view on this yama and look at his sutras, not some of them, just the one, and further discuss how we can apply this to our daily life, kind of what it means to us mentally and physically. And then at the end, we kind of go through some ways that we can begin to integrate this into our daily life if we feel that we are acting from a place of greed or possessiveness, and we have the power to change that. So that is what we will be diving into today, and I'm very excited. So I really hope you will join me in this discussion, and I would love to hear your experiences below. So let's get to it. So to first break down this word, graha means to seek for, to accept, to crave. Pari means from all sides. And a means just, it's like a negation, so it means non. So in combination, this all means together non-possessiveness, non-acceptance, including gifts, we will get to that, and non-greediness, non-covetousness. So basically it is taking only what you truly need, like taking what is necessary for life, necessary for your happiness, but leaving mostly everything else behind. And it's kind of the concept that we don't need all that is offered to us. We don't need to accept all that is offered to us. We can politely decline. And it helps us to kind of go within and see what it is that we truly need. And it feels good. It feels good to politely decline things and say, no, that is not for me. This is a good way to kind of set boundaries, especially with people, relationships, relationship with yourself, relationship with others. So let's dive in, and we will begin with Patanjali. Patanjali 2.39 says that this act, this practice of non-possessiveness will help us to kind of reveal the layers, peel back, and dive deeper into our births. So this doesn't mean just the birth that you were born into this life now, but it includes past births, future births, and kind of unites them as one. Now, I am not saying that this is exactly what I believe when we are talking about Patanjali, but I will read a little excerpt from his sutras. So giving you what he thinks, and then I will give you one school of thought on it and another school of thought. And this is a great way to practice taking in the information, the thoughts, the opinions that resonate with you, taking what you need, and then whatever does not resonate, whatever doesn't make sense, or you don't believe to be true, you can leave it behind and release it, let it go. So Patanjali Sutra 2.39, when non-greed is confirmed, a thorough illumination of the how and why of one's birth comes. I'm going to read you about a 2.5 paragraph excerpt from the book, and you can get his own words in here if you don't have a copy of the Yoga Sutras. Also, if you don't have a copy of the Yoga Sutras, I have a few. This one I have never really touched, so we can do a giveaway if you are interested in owning one of these for free. Comment down below if you would like to do that, and we can kind of get that going. So now I will read to you. Hopefully you like my voice enough to want to listen to this. Aparigraha is abstention from greed or hoarding, which is a form of stealing or not receiving gifts. Many times we get gifts that are merely an advance for a future obligation. It's definitely true. One day someone comes to us with a gift, and the next day he or she telephones to say, remember that gift I gave you? Well, could you please do a little something for me? We feel obliged to do that then. Even the Internal Revenue Service won't accept business gifts as being tax deductible because they aren't a real donation. They are only given to get something in return. A donation means something given just for the sake of giving, not for name, money, or publicity. Accepting gifts binds us and makes us lose our neutrality. The mind will say, you received a gift from him. How can you say something against him? On the other hand, if we are strong enough to remain free of obligation, we can accept gifts. Feel, I am giving her an opportunity to use her money in the right way, but I am not obligated by this gift. She shouldn't come to me tomorrow for an obligation. Then we are not bound. When the mind becomes this calm and clear by being free of desires and obligations, we gain the capacity to see how our desires caused our present birth. Let me read that one sentence again. When the mind becomes this calm and clear by being free of desires and obligations, we gain the capacity to see how our desires caused our present birth. We directly see the cause and effect relationship because we are detached from it. We are no longer bound up with it. So it's kind of like when you are too emotionally invested in something, you might have a harder time attacking the same situation from a place of logic because you're too close to the subject matter. So there are two kind of schools of thought that go along with his view of this yama, and we will go through them now. One thought is when we're able to begin to release this hoarding, we are also able to start to release the ego and the hold that the ego has on us, which allows us to open up and see deeper in, kind of beginning to tap into our true inner consciousness. So when this inner consciousness reveals itself, we are able to go backwards and kind of be able to connect to our past lives, our past births, and this sort of thing. So that is one of the schools of thought. And the other school of thought, which I think personally, in my opinion, I think a lot of people would agree with this one, is that it helps us to realize that we don't need much in our lives to feel fulfilled, satisfied, and truly happy. So thinking back to the pandemic, I feel like this is a really, really good example of this school of thought. A lot of people were, locked in for a few months, and it gave them a lot of time to kind of begin to open up and shed those layers. We were not bound by our work, bound by a lot of our responsibilities. They were taken away from us. So we kind of had a chance to sit with ourselves a lot more than our present modern day society allows us to generally. I think a lot of people started to shed their layers through talking to them, through hearing what people have talked about the pandemic. I believe that people were starting to kind of shed their layers, whether it was physical or mental. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about can be physically or mentally releasing possessiveness, releasing material greed and things. So take it how it resonates with you. And I saw this happen from both perspectives. I saw people being able to mentally kind of dismantle and begin to really dive deeper into their thought patterns, their habits, and start to open up and live a more conscious lifestyle. And I also saw people physically releasing some of their material possessions. They were dressing super comfortably. They had no one to dress up for and look good for anymore. People stopped wearing makeup. They stopped caring as much about the material world as they were just simply living in it. And I think it actually opened a lot of people's eyes, I hope it did, that we don't need all of these things to be happy. I know my close friends and people I know, they were not missing they're driving their car, or they were not like seriously missing putting on makeup every day. The things that they were truly, truly craving and missing out of life were the simple things. It was talking to a friend face to face. It was getting outside in the sunlight and going for a walk. It allowed us to realize that all of these things that we've been collecting, whether mental or physical, we don't really need a lot of them. It was such a great chance to start clearing out closets. I know a lot of people went through serious decluttering of their homes, and I remember them saying how much better they felt after that. So it was a really good chance to witness this as an example, and we don't need a pandemic to begin doing this, and we also don't need to do it on such a large scale by physically decluttering your entire home for 2 months or fixing things up. We can tackle these practices and begin implementing them in simpler ways, in ways that just take a few minutes or a few conscious, intentional thoughts. Going along with this thought, if you remember and if you practice these little get to know me games in school that everybody hated to do because you had to just talk about yourself to strangers that you didn't know yet when you were younger in school, I positively hated them, and I would just try to rush through as quickly as possible. But I think looking back now, they were actually very, very surprisingly educational for your own self if you took the time to think about them and realize what they meant. So basically, here's an example. If you were trapped on a deserted island and could only bring 3 things, barring pets, family members, 3 things, material items with you, what would you bring? So I want us to just take a few moments here to kind of think about that. Start generating ideas. What would you bring if you were going to be deserted on an island? What 3 things would you bring? And as you begin to think about those things, you are effectively weeding through all of your possessions, all of the stuff in your house, in your car, all of these things, and you are going deeper within and finding the 3 things that make you the most happy. The 3 most important things or values to you individually, because they will vary from person to person, and that's the beautiful thing about it. So mine would probably be, and they can, they definitely will change. As I was an 8-year-old, I wasn't going to bring a yoga mat, and now a yoga mat would definitely be one of my top 3 things. And it's also, I feel sorry, I'm kind of rambling right now, but I feel this is a really good way, I'm just thinking of this, to check in and see how your preferences and your hobbies and things change, because as you grow and as you find new hobbies and things that are important, your list would change. So that's actually really cool. That's a really cool thing. I might try to start doing that every year or every 2. It's a nice little practice. Anyways, one of mine would definitely be a yoga mat. The second one that I'm thinking of, I want to say books, because how many times can you read the same book over and over? But it would probably be a book. And I have gone on a few really long trips where I've brought just one book. I brought The Stand by Stephen King because it's a good 1,200, 1,500 pages, even though I've read it twice, I think maybe 3 times now. So I could bring one book that I really liked and read it over and over again. And then the third would probably be some sort of a musical instrument. I kind of fell away from my ukulele practice at the moment, but it is still always in the back of my mind. I just haven't really had the time to commit to learning it. But it would probably be an instrument, some music. And I think those 3 things would really make me happy. So I would love to know if you were kind of doing this exercise along with me, what your top 3 things would be. Leave them in the comments below. I'm very curious to see what your fun hobbies are. And I just think this was a great way to check in with yourself, get to know yourself a little bit better. What are the things that are most important? And maybe as you think about this, you can think about some things that you could get rid of, some things that are no longer important to you. Just a thought, just a suggestion. Going along with that, before we get into a few ways that you can practice this non-possessiveness and non-greediness in your life, I want to take one moment here to just think. Think about your habits and think about if you have a habit of constantly holding on to things. And remember, this can be physical or mental. Or if you have kind of a nice way of letting them go. So do you find yourself do you have a lot of stuff in your house? Or are you a person who routinely declutters, organizes, gets rid of the things? Or do you find yourself easily able to hold on to grudges? Or do you easily find yourself able to forgive yourself or others? So those are just a few thoughts. Just take a moment to think about it. Observe yourself, no judgment. It's okay if we are kind of controlling in our thoughts, in our minds, or if we possess a lot of material items, it's okay. And it's just a nice way to check in and see how you're doing and see if you like what you're doing so far, because there are always chances to stop, observe, reflect, and begin to change our behaviors and our thought patterns, because that is the way that you will feel more fulfilled and satisfied in your life, as if you are truly making yourself happy. And sometimes we can be afraid to admit what will truly make us happy, or maybe we just don't know. And that's okay as well. We have to sit with ourselves and give ourselves time for it to come up, reveal itself. That's the word I was looking for. So if you want to share down below, feel free. If you don't, it's totally okay too. And I will give you a few ways that we can start to practice this nice principle in our daily lives. So the first way is to reduce. Every time you bring something new into your house, try to get rid of something else. And it doesn't have to be like a direct replacement. Like say you get a new article of clothing, you don't have to, like say you get a new shirt, you don't have to make sure that you're giving away a new shirt or an old shirt, but just something, just like one item. If you're collecting a few from, I used to actually do this when I would go thrifting. I would kind of get a few things from the thrift store, and then I would donate a few of my older items to, Salvation Army, things like that, or gift them away, because I used to definitely hoard a lot of stuff. And I've been a little bit better about that as I get older, because I don't need a lot of stuff. I don't even really use a lot of the stuff that I currently have. So this is actually giving me motivation to go through my things and get rid of some of them. But the second one is to breathe. This one is super simple. You can do this anytime that you start feeling stressed out. When we start to feel stressed or anxious, we tend to physically clench our muscles, our body. We become more rigid. We hold on to things, and a lot of times we hold our breath. Think about when you're stressed, everything's tight. We're tightening up our organs, our lungs, our everything. So breathe. Try to consciously allow your breath to flow naturally, and as it begins to flow, you will calm down. And as you calm down, you will begin to open up, and that can help you kind of be more spontaneous and open and just really release. We release a lot with our out breath. We can also use this as a time to mentally release something you no longer need with your physical exhalation. I like to practice this a lot in my yoga practice as well. To inhale, say love, compassion, forgiveness, whatever you need, peace. And exhale, anything that is kind of stuck within your brain that's negative, say resentment or negative thoughts about yourself. It's a nice chance to release everything kind of together, make it a union of body and mind. The third way is positivity. This one is hard. This one does take practice. Sometimes, some days might be better than others, but when we start to hold on to negative thoughts or feelings, it's easy to send yourself in a downward spiral. And when we do this, we're holding on to negative emotions, and it changes our energy. So by consciously trying to release this negativity and instead change your mindset, think about something positive, it brings more harmony into your own body and mind, And that reflects outwardly onto others, onto the environment, and you are constantly giving off energy. So the energy that you hold within yourself matters for everything else in your life. And this possessiveness, greediness can also be in your relationships with others. So this fourth way is a little bit of self-care. If we practice a little bit more self-care, we feel more secure and confident in ourselves. A lot of times when we get, say we have like a controlling boyfriend or girlfriend, it stems from a place of insecurity. Bullies are bullies a lot of times because they're really, truly deep down insecure, and they try to kind of push it away and they start projecting things onto others. So if you take the time to nurture yourself and love yourself, you will be acting from a place of more love and kindness, and it helps to release that control of others and say, like, what you think they should be doing. Sometimes we try to control others' actions or their thoughts, but if we feel good about ourselves and we feel like we can truly be who we are also extending this gratitude to everybody else and allowing them to blossom into their true self and allow them to be who they truly are deep down. The next one is to forgive. So when we hold on to negative thoughts, feelings, things that happened in the past, mistakes that we've made, people who have wronged us, we are really only hurting ourselves by holding on to that negative energy. So if you can find ways to forgive your past mistakes, forgive that person who wronged you, who did you wrong, it will help you to release that control, that possessiveness of those negative feelings. You may not think that you are possessing and holding on to and hoarding those negative feelings, but truly you are, and you have the power to change that. You have the power to release them and let them go. Another way is generosity. So finding a way or ways to extend help to others, helping others with your amount of resources, your energy, your attention, your time, your knowledge, your gifts that you can share with the world. You know, help a neighbor in need, donate things, volunteer your time, your efforts, but do it from a place of non-reciprocity. Oh my gosh, that was hard. Reciprocity? Goodness gracious. You know what I'm trying to say. So doing it for truly the benefit of the other person. Not doing someone a favor with the hopes that, you know, somewhere down the line they will help you back. If that is your goal, then maybe skip this one for now. You can return to it later. But extending an olive branch, per se, helping someone in need is a great way to start releasing control and releasing possessiveness and greed, because you are not being greedy if you are giving somebody the gift of your time or your valuable thoughts, opinions, and help. My last one for you is presence. So when we can release thoughts of the past, of what should have happened, could have happened, all of those, and thoughts of the future of what should happen, hopefully will happen, that's a lot of energy putting on the past and the future, which has not happened yet or has already happened and you can't change it. So when you are able to focus your attention and your energy on the here and the now, you can release those things and turn your mindset into one of more of a state of flow, where you can appreciate and cherish what you have, the things, the mental capacities, the relationships that you have, but still not hold on to a fear of losing it. That is a big one. To appreciate and cherish the things, the relationships, whatever you have now, but also at the same time, not hold on to this fear of, but I don't want to lose it, I don't want to let it go. If it's serving you now, that is beautiful, and you can love it for all that it can give you now. But if there comes a time, maybe there won't, but if there comes a time where it leaves you or it's no longer serving you and you need to let it go, try not to attach fear to that, and know that if it can serve you again, it will come back. And if it's not serving you anymore, what is the point of holding on to it? There really is no point in holding on to things that are no longer meant for you. And it's scary. It is very scary to let things go, but that is the only way that you can create more space, more opportunities for beautiful things to come. And beautiful things to come. It's like picturing a physical space, just a box or a house or whatever. And for this visualization, if you're filling it up with items, and each item can be a negative thought pattern or a grudge, or whatever you need it to be, if you fill up this physical structure with all of these items, at some point your structure will be filled. There will be no more space for any more items. So you will have to either accept that you are full at capacity and you can't do anything with it anymore, or make the conscious decision to take things out and let them go, creating more space in your structure for more things, more positive, beautiful things that will help you more in the now than the things that you chose to release. If you have the power to choose to release them, then you probably know that they are no longer helping you. And some of these things I know are bigger concepts, and they take a long time. I mean, we have this whole lifetime to learn and change and grow, and I feel like that's what this is all about. So please don't think that practicing these one time will kind of fix you or cure yourself from whatever you're trying to heal from. But it is a daily, consistent practice. And if you consistently try, say, one of these or a few of these, you will probably make progress. I'm going to take out probably, and I'm going to say you definitely will make progress. And sometimes the progress may suck. It may look like crying to yourself in your room, but that is also letting go. That is also you releasing emotions and fear and coming into yourself. And I feel like I might start going on a ramble here, but I feel like this is really the point of this whole journey, is to grow, continue to let things go so new things can come in. And I would love to know your viewpoints on this, on anything that I shared. I really, really enjoyed this topic today, and our yogic philosophy can extend to so many areas of our life. I actually, when I was at the store, coming back to kind of what I talked about in the beginning, this hurricane prep that was coming, I was seeing so many people taking, and we see this every time, and people freak out every time. I get it. It may be an emergency. We may be getting smashed with a category 3 or 4 hurricane in just 24 hours. But if we can all be kind and band together, we will all get through it together. Instead of racing to the store, people swipe all of the water, all of the toilet paper, all of these necessary items off the shelves to the point where every single store has to mandate a limit per customer. You can only have 2 gallons of water, only 1 thing of this, and it makes me sad that we even have to do that as a society. Because why are we being so greedy? Why are we possessing so much of this stuff? And it kind of makes me laugh, because a lot of times it truly is, like the water for instance, a lot of times it truly is like the people who I know personally don't really even drink water. They live off of sodas. They drink like maybe a bottle of water a day, and they're always the ones buying like 6 24 packs of water bottles. What are you gonna do with all that water? You don't even drink water. And then here I am going to the store buying 2 gallons of water, and that'll be fine. We can all collectively help and change our society by consciously observing our behaviors and changing the ones that don't benefit us, that don't benefit others. So that was kind of my whole point to this video, was I was seeing all of this prep for the hurricane, and I was seeing so much greed. People were even saying like, hey, you have 6 things of water and I have none, like, can I please just take 1? And they say, no, I don't care about you. I actually witnessed people saying that. And it just broke my heart. It broke my heart. Ugh. We are all in this together. let us try to release some possessiveness, some greed, some hoarding, because we don't need so much. We really don't need a lot to live a happy and fulfilling life. And if you are still watching this video, congrats, kudos to you. And I thank you so much for listening to this and taking what you need and leaving what you don't. Just take what resonates. And I would love to know what resonated and even what didn't. So until next time, my dear friends, thank you for joining me on Yoga with Paige. And if you are in the path of this coming up hurricane, I wish you all of the best. Stay as safe as possible. Make sure you're making your necessary preparations. And I am sending you all of the love and care that I can. Until we meet again, my dear friend. Thank you.